Hey everyone, Platt SM, welcome to another video build. Today we're going to start Alpha Models 124 Ferrari 458 Speciale. So yes, another resin kit. Yes, I know. But sometimes the kits just grab me and sometimes just build things in the spur of the moment. So we started a Ferrari group build over on ISM. It literally started one person. Dan Parent started building a Ferrari and I thought, do you know what, I'll join in with him. I picked a kit, the FXXK, which you've seen before if you watch my bench updates. Everyone was building spiders, Ferraris, and I thought, oh, I really fancy building a spider. I've had this 458 in the stash for ages and I thought, I'm going to build this. Found some great reference pictures, some great inspiration, and here we are. If you want to take part in the Ferrari group build, any Ferrari can be built. It started just before New Year. There's no end date. Just come over and join the International Scale Model Facebook group and post your proposed build on there. There is a thread on there somewhere if you search for it. And post your proposed build and updates on the site. And here we go. So I built this one first, and I'm going to do the FXK next. So there we are. Right, we'll jump straight into the build and start fixing some flaws in the kit. Awesome. So we kick off the 458 build by trying to rectify some bent resin. If you look at the windscreen pillars, they are curved back at an unnatural angle. I've checked references of the real car, and they should definitely not look like that. So, easiest way for me to do this is with my heat gun. On the lowest setting, we're just going to gently heat up each side until we get it malleable enough to be able to move it. Now, you could do this under hot water, no problem at all, but I've used this technique before and it's worked absolutely brilliant. Like I said, just some gentle heating, switching from side to side until we're happy. I've just burnt my finger, so it shows you how hot that heat gun is. And we've just got a finger behind, just give it some gentle pressure just until we get what we want. Now, the resin moves really quick. The heat heats up really fast and you can shape it how you want. Now, if you look at that, that's near enough perfect. But looking at it, the top is just a little bit curved now. So it's going to heat up the very top of the pillars and just bend that top piece up just a little bit straighter, like so, on each side. And that'll do it. So an easy fix. Shouldn't have happened in the first place. But what it is, it's where it's been cast, it's been taken out the cast after being poured while it's still warm, it's sunk. Now, what I've noticed on some of the newer spiders is they put a support strut in there, which will obviously hold that while it cools. But there we go, a few seconds under a heat gun, a little bit of mucking around, and we're done. Now, this I believe is the 5th kit Alpha Models made, and admittedly, it's not the best. This is a kit I purchased myself quite a while back, because it's a pretty car that I really like. The kit isn't great. It really isn't great. There's a lot of flaws to this kit. There's a lot of mold flash from where it's been cast. There's a lot of pore stubs that have not been removed. Alpha Models is really up their game on their later kits. They seem to be hand finished a lot more, and I had to do a lot of work on this to get it ready for primer. So the main flaws on this are the windscreen. Obviously, that was bent. There's a big chip at the front end splitter, which we're going to fill with some CA glue. We've got a couple of sink marks, one on the bonnet, which I don't notice until they get it 2K'd. Till they get it painted, and I thought, you know what, it's one of those. There's ripples in the body here and there. I'm going to fill a few of them in as good as I can, and after that, it's just one of those things. So a big chunk at this front splitter. So we're going to fill it with a few applications of CA glue, just bog standard cheap CA glue from Amazon. You can find a link to this in the description of the video. We're just going to infill it in until it's gone, let it dry, come back, sand it, and refill as necessary later on. So a bit of a pain, but again, easily rectifiable. This kit's really hard to get now, really hard to get. And I've been lucky to stumble across a couple of the older kits. Like they've got the 488 GTB, which again has damage on the front end. A bit more serious than this one, and obviously this one, which has a lot of flaws to the body, and it has quite a few fit issues throughout as well. So not the best Alpha Model kit I've built, but we'll persevere and do as good a job as we can. So we're going to use various UMP sanding sticks, thinny sponges, to try and clean this up. So there's a bit of like rough edge to door cards. So I've got a 400 customizable here, which will keep a straight edge. I'm just going to sand that back. Like I say, a lot more cleanup than I normally do on these kits because it literally needed a lot more. All the pore stubs underneath, they all needed cleaning off. Like I say, on newer Alpha model kits, they're a lot cleaner. And I mean a lot cleaner. They're almost flawless. This one needed a lot of work. So just going to work our way around, clean it all up as good as we possibly can. Like I say, there's a sink mark on the engine bay at the back there, which we're going to fill in. But there's one on the front bonnet, which I didn't spot till later on. And I'll be honest, I just thought, you know what? Once it's 2K'd, you won't even see it. And I'll be honest, you can't see it once it's 2K'd. Panel lines, quite nice and clean on this, but I did my usual thing of getting my Holly scriber. This is the 0.2. And I thought I'll go around and we'll just deepen them, clean them all up a little bit more, and get them looking a little bit better. So quite awkward angles on this one, so just take your time. If you're not confident in rescribing, skip this step, don't do it, because if you slip, you'll make a holy mess of the body. Resin is very soft, it's easily damaged, and I was paranoid about dropping this and snapping off that windscreen surround. So yeah, if you're in any doubt at all, this is a step you can definitely skip. You don't have to rescribe these. The panel lines are prominent enough. I just like to deepen them just a touch and to clear out any muck. Now, we're not going to add a panel line wash to this because we're painting this black. We're going to go Pro Scale Daytona Nero Metallic, which is a beautiful metallic paint. Black paint even. So we're not even going to do the panel lines, but I just do it as a matter of course. Here's one of the major flaws in the body. Is a big kind of sinkhole in the back of the body. So I'm just going to put some Cera glue in there, and again, we'll let that dry. And like I said, unfortunately, there's one on the left-hand side of that bonnet, but I don't see it till later on. So we're going to sand up the Cera glue on this front splitter. We've got our 240 grey sponge from UMP. And then a 400 thinny stick to get to the top. I'm just going to gently sand it until we get it profiled the way we want. Now, I did take a couple applications of Cera glue to get it correct, but once it was done, you couldn't even see the problems at all. Now, the dashboard doesn't fit properly. It has to slide in through those windscreen pillars. After several attempts, I figured out how to do it. So don't assemble the dashboard. There's three parts of the dashboard. There's the upper part, which we're going to paint Napa Black from Pro Scale. The middle section, which is carbon fibre. And the bottom section, which we're going to do in clay leather from Pro Scale. The way to assemble it is to put each layer in separately, which I'll show you later in the video. So we've cleaned everything up. We've sanded everything back. Everything is looking as good as we can. We've got my lovely Mickey Mouse toothbrush, and we're going to go around and clean out all the panel lines, any recesses, get rid of any dust. I've just noticed a little bit of a flaw there on that ridge. There's big sink marks in there as well. So we're just going to give it a very light sand over. I don't want to reprofile this too much, but obviously I need to reprofile it a little bit. It's not worth filling. It just needs sanding back a touch to get rid of it. So we're going to roll the dust. Now we're going to degrease the body with Pro Scale Paint alcohol-based degreaser. So with the resin kits, a toothbrush is the best way to do this. I've got it securely mounted on my painted Bretland stand. And we've got a toothbrush with our degreaser on, and we're going to get in every single nook and cranny. So I squinted for this, which is why it went a bit blurry. No, the camera's gone out of focus. We're going to get in every nook and cranny because they're all mold release on resin kits. Anything that's poured will have mold release on. Once we've gone around with the toothbrush, being very careful that windscreen surround, we're going to use some clean tissue and dry it all up, and we'll have a nice dust-free, degreased, clean body ready for primer. So, in the back of my mind, all along, I thought, once I primer this, more flaws are going to become apparent, and oh, did they. So, I got literally one coat of primer on, spotted all the flaws, and thought, okay, it's going to need a little bit more work. So, I'm going to show you putting down the first coat of primer, and then I'll show you quickly what it looked like after sanding. So I've got Pro Scale Paint, grey primer. This is a darker grey primer of ours. We're in our spray booth. We've got our anti-static brush from Tamiya, just to get rid of any nasties off the body. I've got the body, the wing mirrors, and there's two inserts for the side skirts loaded up separately there. I've got our Iwata CR3 Revolution airbrush, 18-ish PSI. Like I say, we're going to put a coat of primer down. I'm going to show you the whole process. I'm going to go a little bit more in depth on the painting in this video. I tend to skip it. I'm going to show a little bit more of the priming Not a whole lot, but I'm going to show you a bit more of it and a little bit more of the painting and 2K process. I cut a lot of it out, and a lot of people have said, especially patrons, that they like to see the more in-depth section, so that's what we're going to do. So what we're going to do in the first coat is a nice light coat. Don't want to hose it on. We're not trying to get coverage. We're just trying to get a coat of paint down. And what that'll do then is flash off as we go around the rest of the body. And then if we were continuing, you can almost continue with your second coat straight away. But on this one, literally, as I got to the end of the first coat, I could see the flaws in the body. So there's a few more that we are going to find. And we'll deal with them accordingly. Basically, they're very small flaws that are just viewable once primed. And we're just going to sand them back. I don't think anything needs any more filler. We're just going to sand it back. Like I say, being nice and methodical. Every square inch of the body, including those wheel arches, around that windscreen surround and everywhere. We can get everything done. And I'm just checking anywhere else I filled earlier as well. So like that front splitter and that rear section on the engine bay and that little ridge on top of the middle of the bonnet there as well. Just to make sure I've done as good a job as possible. Now, like I say, the more we get into this kit, the more faults we find. The resin isn't very well finished in a lot of the recess parts, which is a bit of a pain because I can't see that at this point. It only becomes apparent near the end. So while it's disappointing on this kit, obviously I pay for this, the £150 isn't cheap, it shows how far off a model have come on their models because the resin now is nigh on flawless. I mean, it really is beautiful resin. So it shows that they've adapted and changed a few things along the way, which is good to see. The end result is we still get a nice model built, and I still enjoy building this. It's a beautiful car, the 458. But there we go. Right, so we've got that flaw on the bonnet I told you about, which we've spotted now and taken care of a bit. This on the front, we're going to have to sand back and fill in a little bit more as well. Just needs a little bit more CA glue in there. We've got one on the air hump at the back as well. They need a little bit of attention. So, yeah, not a major amount to do, but enough to stop me in my tracks, let the primer dry for an hour or so, and just flat everything back. But did a good job everywhere else. But as you can see, there are a few flaws. And there we go. So, we cleaned it all off, dusted it off again, and we're going to reprimer. So, if you ever reprimer this, you need to make sure that you feathered the edges and everything. So, using suitable sponges or sanding paper, feather the edge around where you've sanded the primer off so that there's no step. And then once you prime again, it should be literally invisible. So what I'll tend to do is if I've already got a coat of primer down and sanded back, I'll put a light coat down just in the areas of sanded to begin with, just to build it up a little bit. And if you can see a step, stop, let the primer dry and go and feather again, because anything flaw you see now, you'll see in the paint and you'll see once it's cleared as well. So you need to do as good a job as possible. Once we've got a light coat down, all the bits are done, we can start building it up a little bit heavier, not hosing it on, we're just putting a little bit down at a time. So, just going to build it up slowly. We're going to add about 4 coats of primer in total. Just a little bit extra, an extra coat because we sanded these few areas. And like I say, on each pass of primer we do, we're just putting a little bit more primer down in those areas we primed. And you cannot see a single area where I primed and sanded back. So it shows you I've feathered the edges enough. Like I say, if you can see anything in the paint now is your time to rectify it. Let the primer dry for a couple of hours. Get some of your fine sanding sponges or pads or whatever you use to sand with, and just take it back. What you want to do is feather the edge of the paint so it blends in with the bare resin. And then when you primer it, there'll be no steps. You won't see any ugliness. It should just be a perfectly primed body. Remember, preparation is everything. Preparation is key, literally. And this is where we get our better paint jobs from. And this one has got a good paint job on it. And this thing looks fantastic at the end. So, yeah, take your time. Just build it up slowly. We're not hosing the paint on. It might look like a lot's going down. There's really not a lot of primer going down there at all. We're just moving around. Pop it to one side for 5-10 minutes, let it dry, and then we'll come back with our last coat. So again, just a systematic coat all around the body. Now we don't need to apply any more on the areas we sanded. We can just focus on getting our even coverage everywhere we need it. The grey primer from ProScale lays down absolutely beautiful. Now, it is a microfiller primer, so you will need to sand it at the end. It will infill any micro abrasions on the body and give a super smooth finish once sanded. So once this is sanded, we'll flat it back with a 3000 Tamiya sponge. So building up nicely now. Can't see any flaws in the body anymore. It's looking quite good. Happy with it. Like I say, it's not the best finished body, but it's such a pretty car. It really is a gorgeous shape, this thing. We do have a Ferrari group build ongoing at the minute as well. It started just before New Year. There is no end date at all. It's over on ISM's Facebook page. There's links for that down below. You can come over and join us. You can also become a patron on the channel and come and get early access to all the videos. You get a month's early access on the videos. There's exclusive Saturday bench updates every week for patrons only. And you get added to a Facebook Messenger chat group where there's about 80 of us in. It's a great little community we've got. And it's an exclusive Facebook page as well. And you can message me directly on Patreon. You can ask me questions, wherever you want. So there's links for Patreon down below. Now the wheels, again, the story of this kit is cleanup. It's getting a little bit of cleanup. So a lot of wisps of flash in between the spokes. So we're just going to clean them out with the simplest of things. We've got my knife for getting in between the spokes. We've got a thin cotton bud and an actual cocktail stick. And what it is just thin wisps of flash of resin that literally just wipes off. But because it's so thin to get in, it's a little bit tricky to get to. So just take your time, be nice and careful. And again, the wheels aren't the best finished, but with a little bit of work, we'll get them looking okay. And then the toothpick, just to get around the edge of the wheels and the spokes, to remove any lasting flash that's left there at all. Really nice wheels on this. They look absolutely phenomenal later as well. So with those cleaned up, they can be painted later on. Now paints, like I say, we're going with ProScale paints. Daytona Nero Metallic. So this is from my company, myself and my partner Hannah own ProScale paints. They are pre-mixed lacquers. They're airbrush ready. They're 30mm. We do over 420 colours so far on the website. There's a link to that down below. We will colour match any paint at no extra cost for you at all. If there's anything you're after, just drop me a message and we'll try and sort it out for you. So Iwata CR3, again, 18 PSI. It's a 0.3 needle. And we're going to put down, I think this gets about 6 coats of the black. Now, it's a very unusual black. As you can see, it's got green in it. It is a very, very unusual black colour. Very interesting one to mix. I mix all the paint, so I get to see the origins of these colours and where they come from. So, it's a green-based black colour that has like a graphite fleck to it. It's a very unusual colour, and it is absolutely stunning. I found a picture online of a 488, I think it was, painted in this colour with the wheel colour we're going to go for. And I was like, yep, that's the one for me. Mix the colour up. I've not done a black car in a long time. In fact, of all the cars I've built, over 100, I think it's nearly 180 now, I've only ever built 3 black cars because they've always been such a nightmare to paint. I did the Mercedes CLK GTR, and a BMW M330 and a John Player Special. One turned out okay, the other one didn't, and I've always been put off because it's such a tricky colour to not only paint, but clear coat and polish. So, yes, going into it with full confidence with my own paints, I knew I'd get a good result. So, we're just going to go around and apply light coats. I sped this up a little bit because it can get a little bit boring for you. We're just going to put an even coat of paint down, let it flash off for 5 minutes, and then add another coat of paint afterwards. Now, we'll alternate between side to side and up and down passes on each coat. And like I say, I think we get about 5 or 6 coats on this. It builds up nicely, and what a colour it turns out to be. So yeah, don't be in a rush to get the paint down. Multiple coats works a lot better than hosing the paint on. Trust me. Trust me, trust me, trust me. Look at the result of this thing at the end. It looks absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to put some music on and leave you to it and come back in a minute. So there we go, that's about our 6th coat of paint. We've made sure we've got in all those little nooks and crannies, every little recess we can get to, and it's looking well. It's a beautiful, beautiful colour, it really is. It's very unusual, and this is going to look absolutely amazing once it's clear coated. So as we'll be doing that, we're doing the wing mirrors and those side skirts, little fins as well. Just nice even coats the whole way through. We use barely any paint, black over dark grey primer covers really quick. And like I say, it's going to look absolutely amazing once clear coated this. So clean up the airbrush with just lacquer paint. We do our own thinner and cleaner as well. Or you can just use a generic lacquer thinner to clean up your airbrush as well. And there we go. So we'll pop everything to one side to dry, and we're going to prime up and paint the rear diffuser and the wheels. Now, I did contemplate painting carbon in this, but looking at the real car, it doesn't seem to be carbon at all. It's just a gloss black. So I thought, okay, we'll follow my reference picture and go from there. So we've got some Mr. Service of 1500 black. We're just going to put a couple of light primer coats down on the diffuser and prime the wheels at the same time as well. So the wheels are tricky. I tend to do the front face and then spray the side and then the inside as well. And just keep doing that a couple of times until you get a nice even coverage. And don't forget to do the side of the rim as well, so that anything doesn't show through the tyre once it's in place as well. But just build it up until you're happy. Now, wheels colour, we're going with Raised Wheel Bronze. So this is a JDM wheel colour. And again, the reference picture I had, this wheel colour matched it almost perfectly. So I thought, right, okay. Mix the paints up well, give them a really good shake. And then into our airbrush. This is my Airwater CR3 Revolution. But this is my metallics one. I've got one solely for metallics. And this is it. And we're going to put about 4 light coats of this down. Building it up slowly. Again, exactly the same spray technique as the primer. Get around the top, get around the side, get underneath. And here we are at about 4 coats. We've got a beautiful bronze coloured wheel, and these look absolutely phenomenal. This, with the interior colour I chose, is really going to make that Ferrari look absolutely amazing. Now the boring part, we've got all the resin cleaned up. I've not bothered showing you that because you've seen it done many times before. We've just used various sanders and we've mounted them all ready for primer using clips, CA glue, or holes drilled in strategic places. And then we've got all the photo etch to cut off, clean up and mount. So we'll cut them off with my Zoron PE shears, which are absolutely amazing tool. We've got some tongue depressors with some reverse Tamiya tape on there to stick the parts down like so. And that way we can paint and prime them without them flying off and falling everywhere. Bit of a boring job, but just part of the process of building out from all the kits. The PE parts really do add an extra dimension to the kit and add a lot of detail. So well worth doing. So yeah, just take your time, clean everything up, get everything securely mounted for primer, and then we can batch prime everything in one go, paint everything in one go, and then we can detail paint everything in one go. And it's a much more efficient way of model building. So there's many grills on this, there's many other bits and bobs. Not everything's going to need painting. Some of it will be left bare metal, like the foot pedals, which will go over our painted black ones. So refer to instructions, look for real life references of the car. There's a site called Romans that tends to sell a lot of supercars, and they have fantastic pictures of the cars. So you can have a good look around on there, get some really nice close-up references, and see exactly how something should look to how you think it is. The instructions in the kit are just a couple of pages of loosely how to assemble. So yeah, real life references are very, very important. Another thing with these grills as well, and I did it with a couple of them, make sure they're facing the right way for paint. Orientate them the correct way they'll go on the car. I had 2 that were the wrong way, and when you come to attach them, they won't be painted and you'll have to redo it. So double check everything's the right way and then stick them down ready for primer. So it's that time again, it's 2K time. So we're going to wet our bench. We've got a nicely cleaned kitchen paper bench. We've got our plastic tub to the left. The boot's been stripped out and cleaned. Everything's been de-dusted and wiped down. We've got our Pro Scale Paints 2K Clear, which is phenomenal stuff. And we're going to mix 2 parts of clear to 1 part of activator. So in there, I usually put about 6 to 10 mil. So if you're putting 6 mil in there, you want 3 mil of activator, 2 parts clear to 1 part activator. Remember with the pipettes, you throw them away. After every chemical it's been in, throw it away. Do not put it in another bottle. You'll contaminate the bottle and ruin your 2K. So there's our 3ml of activator. Well, it'll be 1.5ml is what it'll be. And there's another one. So that's 3ml in total. So 2 parts clear, 1 part activator. Empty the pipette. There we go. Completely empty. Put the lid on the activator and put that out the way. Now store all your 2K store your 2K sets somewhere nice and cool and out of sunlight. Make sure the lids are on properly. And like I say, do not contaminate the bottles with the pipette. I'm getting a new one for every one. And then we need to add 5% of thinner as per recommended by our instructions. So if you've got 9 milliliters of clear, you need to add 0.45 milliliters of thinner to that mix. So there we go. So for the first 2 coats of clear, we're going to thin it with the recommended 5% thinner. Mix it all together and then throw the pipette away forever. There we go. Empty it, throw it away. And then we're going to strain it. Always strain your 2K. You can get crusty bits of dried activator on the rim of the bottle, and you don't want that going into your clear coat and spitting onto the model, so always strain it. These are 190 micron paint strainers we sell at ProScale as well. And then load up the airbrush, which is our Iwatta Revolution CR 0.5 Revolution. And then we dust it down the model with our Tamiya anti-static brush, and away we go. Now, a lot of people have asked me lately, can I put the mix 2K back in the bottle? No. Once it's mixed, you started a chemical reaction and the catalyst is going to harden. It's an activator that goes in, causes a chemical reaction, and it's going to harden in whatever it's stored in. So don't put it back in the bottle. Wherever you mix, you need to throw away. Now, this is my 0.5mm Iwatta, like I say. This is a standalone airbrush I only use for 2K. That way I know no paint's gone in there, no colours are going to come out, no metallic flakes. And what we're going to do on our first coat is apply a semi-wet clear coat. We're not trying to get a full clear coat, we're just putting down a nice, even, semi-wet coat of 2K everywhere, getting all those angles and recesses, getting all those wheel arches all around every grill and nook and cranny. Just build up nice and slowly. Now we're about 23 psi. Like I say, it's a 0.5 airbrush, so it gets a bit more paint flow out of it. And there we go. You can already see the colour start to show. This thing is going to look absolutely phenomenal. It really, really is. It's a case of just going around and getting in every nook and cranny a nice even coat of 2K. Don't go crazy. You just want a semi-wet coat like I'm doing here. And we want to get it in that plastic tub as quick as we can to eliminate as much dust as possible landing on the model. So there we go. There's our nice semi-wet 2K coat. It's looking shiny already. I'm just making sure it's even everywhere and a little bit 2K as and where needed. And then getting our wheel arches as well. There we go. So we just want a nice even coat. We're not going for that flawless 2K. Just a nice even coat all around. So that goes in our plastic tub out the way safely. And then we'll do our wing mirrors and our side skirt fins as well. And obviously remember on the smaller part, you don't need as much 2K. Touch wood, I haven't had a run yet on the Pro Scale. It is unbelievably forgiving. But yeah, just take your time on the smaller parts. Don't overload it and just take your time. And there we go. There's our side fins as well. Now that's going to be put in the box to off gas for 3 to 5 minutes. And here we go for our second coat. Still with the original mix of paint, still with the 5% thinner. And we're going to apply near enough the exact same coat again. Just a nice semi-wet coat overlapping the edges of clear. We're not trying to get it perfect. We're just putting down a nice even coat of 2K. We'll just make sure it's all equal all round. Just build it up nice and slow. Now, I have my Scott full face respirator on. I am double gloved on my left hand. I've got a single glove on my right hand. The reason I do that is the left hand's the one that gets paint all over it from where I'm spraying. I've got a fresh filter in my Bench Vent A300 spray booth, which is a phenomenal spray booth that gets rid of any remnants of any smells or vapor. like I said, I got my scoff full face respirator on, my eyes are covered, everything perfect. I'm in the room on my own. There's nobody else in the room with me. So if you follow those precautions, 2K, perfectly safe to use. You're only using it occasionally. It's not like you're using it every single day. As long as you've got a good extractor and good PPE, you'll be just fine. I've been using 2K for years now. And although I howl at the moon a little bit, I am perfectly fine other than that. So there we go. We've got a nice even coat that can go back in the box. And then we can put another coat down on all our smaller parts. Now, recommended from our instructions is 5% thinner. If you're happy with that ratio, you don't want to push it any further, just keep going with the 2K until you got a flawless finish. So I always put it back in the box now, the body, for another 90 seconds. Let the 2K self-level, bring it out and have a look, and it needs a little bit more, a little bit more. But what I've been doing lately for the last coat of paint is pouring back the 2K into the cup so we can see how much we've got, emptying the airbrush, and then we'll pour the 2K mix into a fresh medicine cup so we can see exactly how much we've got in there. The 2K has a habit of infilling the markings on the side of the medicine cup. So we're popping that back in there. And if we've, say, got 10 millilitres of combined mix left, I'm going to add another 10% of thinner to this. So 10% of 10 mil will be 1 mil of thinner. So that will give us a slightly thinner 2K mix, which from my experience of the last 10 or so models I've built, is allowing the 2K to settle a lot faster and giving me a much better finish. So if you're happy with the 5%, continue on. If you want to try something new and try and get the most optimal 2K clear coat you can get out of the brush, I would highly recommend doing it this way. I've seen many people saying try different ways. To me, I've tried them. This is the best way. So this is our last coat now. I'm going a little bit slower on my pass. The 2K is much thinner. Even just as only it's been thinned by 10%, it alters it dramatically. And what that'll do is it'll allow the 2K to flow and self-level a lot easier. So we're just going now with our final coat. A little bit slower, still following that wet edge. And what we want to see now is a glass-like finish. This should look just absolutely perfect. No ripples, no orange peel, nothing in there at all. And that's how we do it. And this helps a lot. So if you want to try and get the most optimum 2K, I'd highly recommend giving this a go. If you're not totally confident, stick with our recommended 5%. You will still get a fantastic 2K clear coat. But this just makes life a little bit easier and saves a lot of polishing, or a bit more polishing at the end. Like I say, just go around, keeping that wet edge all around the body, just getting every nook and cranny. Don't forget that windscreen surround as well, because that is a gloss part on the car. And then what we're going to do, we're going to pop it back in our box for another 60 seconds or so while we paint our wing mirrors and that. So very little paint needed on these, just a quick blow over. It looks like loads of 2Ks going down. It's not. 90% of that 2K is missing because of the spray of the airbrush. So as long as you're not crazy, you'll be just fine. And there we go. And what we're going to do, put them back in, and then we're going to get the body out, use the light to our advantage and angle it, and look for anything that needs a little bit more 2K. And literally, if you can see a little bit of a flaw, just put a little bit more 2K down. Like I say, our 2K is very, very forgiving. And if you see a little spot that needs a bit more, don't be afraid to add it. How this looks when you leave it now is how it's going to dry. So if you've got orange peel, it's going to dry with orange peel. This is your opportunity to get as flawless a finish as you can out the airbrush, and do I with this. And I definitely think adding that 10% thinner is a game changer. I know a lot of people have said to me, oh, I thin it 10% or 50% straight away. I think having those slightly thicker coats at the beginning is beneficial to getting it down, and just more thin last coat is definitely helping settle it, because we end up with an absolutely beautiful body on this one with just a couple of dust spots, which isn't the end of the world. We can polish and sand those out. And I'm just using the light in the booth just to have a look around for anything that might need a little bit more. Now this will self-level a bit more as it cures. It will thin out a bit as well, and this will be fully dry in about 4 hours at 22 degrees C room temperature. Okay, there we go. We popped that back in our case for a little bit, another minute or so. We had a quick tidy up. Let's let the 2K just self-level a little bit. I'm using the light again just to look for any flaws whatsoever, and it's absolutely perfect. So there we go. We'll be back for part 2 very soon. A huge thanks for all my patrons whose names are going to flash up at the end of this video.